Right now, I'm challenging myself to see if I can make 128 Regulation H teams that are each different from one another over the course of 128 days. Why 128, you might ask? At the end of the 128 days, we're going to do something special where we battle every team against each other in a single elimination bracket to see which team emerges on top. There will be some competitively strong teams, there will be some gimmick teams, and there will be some probably a good number of goofs and gaffs in there, so if you want to follow through to the end, subscribe so that you can keep up with each day. But without further ado, let's move on to day 43. Alright everybody, welcome back to another video, and in today's video we are featuring a 2-2-2 team. However, this 2-2-2 team is very special because it is a 2-2 tea time team. And if you're not excited after all of those T words that I just said, I don't know what can get you more excited than this. But 2-2-2 is usually used to describe whenever you have three different openings that are pretty set and they're all different than each other. And what you would do with a 2-2-2 team is that you would just pick two of the twos and then lead two of them and then have the other two in the back. So whenever your opponent can only break one of the twos, then you break them with the second two. And this 2-2-2 team is well, actually it is very different because of our last two, but we'll get to that after we talk about Talonflame here. Our Talonflame is going to be a pretty standard Talonflame set, as we're going to be setting the priority Tailwind with our Gale Wings ability, which gives us a +1 priority on all flying type moves as long as our HP is full, which will also include our Stab Brave Bird for some decent damage, and we'll also have the Stab Flare Blitz, which will both lower our health, but usually they're more warranted whenever we want to do good stab damage. And we also have the Taunt, which won't be priority, but it will be nice to just taunt certain Pokemon, like single Trick Room setters, like Farigiraf, for example. And on Talonflame, we're going to be using the Cover Cloak so that we won't be getting flinched by the Fake Out. However, if we do get faked out, it is going to break our Gale Wings, which is going to make us slower than other Pokemon. But Talonflame is so fast that it really doesn't come up a lot. And we're going to be running Terra Grass, just so we're not getting put to sleep by a multitude of Pokemon using Grass, Spore, or Sleep Powder moves. For our second part of our first two, we have the Shiftry, and Shiftry combos really well with Talonflame because we have the Wind Rider ability, so whenever we are hit by a Wind move or Tailwind is set up on our side, we gain a nice +1 boost. And Shiftry has the ability to do a lot of really good stab damage with the Leaf Blade, which is 90 base power, and the Knockoff, which will go over 90 base power whenever the opponent is holding an item. And we also have the Sucker Punch for a little bit of priority, just in case we need it to get some Focus Sashes. And we have our own Focus Sash to guarantee that Shiftry is at least getting off one hit, and we usually do get it because if the opponent is leading two spread moves, it means that they can't set up a Tailwind of their own, so Shiftry will usually get to attack at least once. For the second part of our two, we have the Dondozo Tatsugiri combo, and our Dondozo is pretty standard. Some of these moves might be a little off kilter, but I wanted to just spice things up a little bit. We have our good Stab Wave Crash, but we also have the Heavy Slam, which lets us hit things like Fairy types, with nothing on this team really has the ability to hit. And Stomping Tantrum is nice just because we can get faked out, but once we get faked out, we get the double damage Stomping Tantrum, which is great for dealing with specific threats. And Stomping Tantrum's base power doesn't get decreased on grassy terrain like Earthquake does. And our Dondozo is going to be fairly speedy, just so we're at a certain speed tier, so whenever we get double speed, we're outspeeding most of the things that Dondozo would be. And we're Clear Amulet so that we're not getting intimidated, or speed dropped for that matter, because we are unaware, so we are kind of prone to intimidate attack drops. And we're Terra Grass, so we're not getting put to sleep by powder moves. And Grass gives us some nice resistances since we were previously a water type. And to go with our Dondozo, we have Tatsugiri, and this Tatsugiri is a pretty simple Choice Scarf set, as we're going to be using our Stab Draco Meteor or Muddy Water whenever we're Choice Scarf. And we also have Icy Wind for speed control, and we can also use Tatsugiri to start the game, just in case we need that Tatsugiri speed control for the Icy Wind. And we have Terra Blast, Terra Steel, which is another way for us to hit fairies, and Steel gives us some really good resistances, obviously, because that's what Steel does. And lastly, we have our most special two here, as we're going to be using Poltegeist, and the reason that we have Poltegeist is because of its signature move, Tea Time, which makes it so that whenever Poltegeist uses the move, all Pokemon on the field will eat their berries. So this is nice for our Dondozo team, because it means that if we lead Poltegeist Dondozo and we click Tea Time, Pokemon that can maybe take like 3 hits from Dondozo because they eat their berry will no longer be able to do that because we force them to eat their berry immediately.
And Poltegeist has a lot of good disruption tools for the Dondozo, as we have the Will-O-Wisp for lowering the opponent's physical base power moves, which Dondozo's unaware does not care about, and we also have the Light Screen for decreasing special damage, which again Dondozo's unaware does not care about, and we just have the Foul Play as one of our attack moves. So that way, if Poltegeist ever gets taunted, it's not going to get bricked, and Foul Play is still good for dealing a lot of good damage into opponents as long as they have a decently high attack stat. And on Poltegeist, we also have the Curse Body, which means that we add some variance that every time a Pokemon hits Poltegeist with an attack, there is a 30% chance that they will be bricked out of using that attack. So this is beneficial if we lead Poltegeist Dondozo again, because if we can brick something out of using a move that's normally super effective against Dondozo, that means Dondozo is going to have an easier time on the field. And since we're using Tea Time, we might as well be eating an Agua Berry for ourselves, as Poltegeist isn't the fastest thing, even though I have teched it to beat a few things in speed. Poltegeist isn't the fastest, so it's pretty likely that it'll take an attack or two before it gets to either click Tea Time or one of its other moves. So the Agua Berry will heal us up a nice bit, and we don't have to wait until we're at 1/4 HP in order to use it. And lastly, we have Tauros, and Tauros combos with Poltegeist because it is holding the Likey Berry, which means that we will get an attack boost whenever Tea Time is used, or if we just get down to 1/4 HP, but that's not super likely to happen because Tauros is pretty frail. But what we can do is turn 1, we lead like Tauros Poltegeist, and then we protect with Tauros, and then as long as Poltegeist gets off the Tea Time, Tauros will get an attack boost for free, and then because of its Cudshoe ability, if Tauros survives another turn, it will get another attack boost on the Lychee Berry. So as long as we can lead Tauros and Poltegeist into the right opponent, Tauros pretty much just gets the Swords Dance for free. And on Tauros, we're using a bunch of moves that can be used to beat a lot of things that beat Dondozo, such as the Raging Bull for grass types, we have the Close Combat to hit things like Murkrow or certain other Haze users, and Wild Charge is here to hit like Primarina and Palafin, who are also Haze users. And this moveset isn't going to cover like all of the Dondozo answers, but it covers like 80% of them, I would say. But yeah, that's the basis of the team. Let's get into some battles. First up, we have kind of a 2-2-2 team in the sense that they have like Indeedee Hatterene mode and then getting Torkoal in under Trick Room, or they could just lead Indeedee Lilligant and then exert pressure that way with Lilycole, and then their 2 Gallade and Ursaluna pieces are kind of not 2, but they can just be thrown in the mix anywhere there. So I figure that my best lead into their leads is Talonflame and Shiftry, as they lead Torkoal and Lilligant, which is pretty nice for us here. They immediately Terra Ghost their Lilligant, which is immediately not great for us, as I went for the Brave Bird in order to try and get it, and Brave Bird is going to take her health down, but they missed the Sleep Powder on Talonflame, which is actually pretty big. They immediately after you Torkoal, and that's going to do damage into Talonflame and Shiftry, which takes Shiftry down the sash, but Talonflame lives it, and we get up our Tailwind, which is probably the play I should have gone for turn 1, was just getting up that priority Tailwind, just in case they could go for a play like that, but we get to Brave Bird down the Lilligant, as we knocked off the Torkoal for as much damage as we can get out of it. But now that these 2 have been defeated, we can bring in our other 2, which is Dondozo, Tatsugiri, and I didn't want them to get out of Trick Room, and they've already used their Terra, so we can pretty safely Heavy Slam into the Hatterene to take it out. But the Torkoal actually has Clear Smog, which means that this game is not immediately over, as they lead Ursaluna as their last Pokemon, and they protect so that he can get off a turn of Guts, and maybe they're also stalling out our Tailwind here a little bit, but they also stall out their own stun, which is nice. And I protect just because I want the Ursaluna to take a little bit of burn chip here, as the Torkoal just weather balls outside of the weather, and we're faster than Ursaluna, so we get to Wave Crash into it to not take it out, but still to do a lot of damage into it, as Weather Ball comes down to Tatsugiri and it ain't doing too much, even though it's a normal type move. And I Terra Steel Tatsugiri just in case we miss the Muddy Water on Ursaluna. That would be the big one. Thankfully we missed it on Torkoal instead, but I'm not exactly sure even with the Terra Steel we would survive the Facade from Ursaluna, but it's very fortunate that we landed that Muddy Water anyways. Here we have quite a spread of different Mons here, and they also have Swampert, who I don't know a lot about, mostly because I don't know the conditions where Swampert would be like an ideal Pokemon to bring. And I actually timed out on this one because I wasn't paying attention, but thankfully the game led Talonflame and Shiftry, which I wanted to lead the Tea-Time mode into this because they have some pretty unique mons, but we led Talonflame Shiftry, so that's what we're going to deal with. I didn't want Talonflame getting put to sleep, so I immediately went for the Tailwind, and we knocked off Amoonguss in order to get rid of its item, and they Foul Play into Talonflame, which does like exactly about half, and Pollen Puff is going to bring Shiftry down to the Sash here, as Amoonguss decides to protect, and I Brave Birded into it, and I just decided to knock off the Umbreon, because if it had leftovers, it would be kind of difficult for Dondozo to deal with, as they take out Talonflame, and now we can just get in Tatsugiri to do some damage into the Umbreon as we knock off the Amoonguss, and they probably wouldn't have been able to KO Tatsugiri, but they make the right choice in KOing Shiftry there, at least in my opinion, as now we Commander to form Dondozo mode, and they immediately swap out their Dragonite for whatever reason, but that allows us to KO Umbreon, because we're super fast with our Tailwind still up. We Wave Crash the Swampert just to take out all of its health, because it didn't, I mean, it's possible that it could have had Haze, but instead it had all of its health gone. As we just have to heavy slam down the Dragonite here for a bit, but the Dragonite is Life Orb, so it's going to naturally be chipping itself down as we're chipping it down, and it is going to be able to overcome the Dondozo mode, but now we just need Tatsugiri to land the Draco Meteor, and we are good. Here we have an interesting team where they could use Delphox for like expanding force stuff, but they also have Murkrow and the Torkoal, which don't really feel like they work together, but Murkrow can Haze, and the Torkoal under Trick Room is very threatening for all of our modes except for Dondozo pretty much, and Melsaper always puts a lot of pressure on the team, so they decide to start with the Indeedee and Delphox here, as I decided to start Talonflame and Shiftry yet again, and they helping hand Delphox here as I Tailwinded with Talonflame in order to give Shiftry the attack boost, and we get to knock off the Delphox, but the Delphox is actually Sash, so it gets to live the turn, but the Heat Wave maybe thinking that would be super effective into Shiftry, but it is not super effective in the Shiftry, because Shiftry is immune to the wind moves, which means that Shiftry gets another free attack boost, and we get to just take out Indeedee this turn while it's redirecting, and they're just continuing to Heat Wave for whatever reason, perhaps not. I would be willing to bet this Delphox can't hit Shiftry because they probably have like Heat Wave, Expanding Force, and maybe like Nasty Plot on the Delphox, and then like Protect. So yeah, we just get to Muddy Water here. We do hit both, which is nice. We hit Delphox and Torkoal, and the knockoff is going to be able to take out the Torkoal, and the opponent forfeits, as we don't get to see what their last Pokemon is, but if it was any one of them, Shiftry easily would have been able to take them at this point. Okay, so now we're finally going to get to a game where I led the Tea-Time mode. We lead Poltegeist Tauros here, and the opponent leads Rillaboom and Garchomp, which is what I wanted to see here, as we're going to protect Tauros, but we're not going to go for the Tea-Time quite yet, as we catch the Fake Out and the Stomping Tantrum, but Poltegeist gets to go for the Will-O-Wisp into Garchomp, which was the one really threatening Tauros, and they immediately Terra Grounded, as I just safety Terra Grass, because I really didn't want Tauros getting knocked out this turn, as we were going to go for the Tea-Time here, and I really thought they might swap out Rillaboom here, because I could have just attacked it with my Fire type move, but they just decided to slow U-turn out, as we do get the Disable, but that doesn't do anything, because Rillaboom gets to swap out, as they bring in Blaziken, so the fact that I safety Terra Grass is actually being used against me here, because the Blaziken is definitely going to get faster than me in the next turn. I tried attacking into it, but I knew Foul Play was going to be able to take out Garchomp, so we get Garchomp with the Foul Play, and everything gets a little bit of Grassy Terrain healing, and our Cudchew comes in so that we get a damage boost here, which is pretty nice, and I protect Tauros, because I thought it would be the target of Blaziken, but it actually just sides coachings the Grimmsnarl, which makes me glad that I Will-O-Wisped into it, but the Grimmsnarl goes for False Surrender, so this is actually an aggressive Grimmsnarl is what it seems like. We get to bring in Dondozo here, and they bring in Rillaboom, but I predicted that they would swap in Rillaboom, and I went for the Raging Bull in order to get rid of it, as they Spirit Breaked into Tauros, but at this point Tauros has more than done its job, as now they only have Grimmsnarl, who's burned, and our Unaware allows us to not care about the stat boost on the Grimmsnarl, so it's just burned, as Blaziken is weak to Dondozo, and yeah, they're going to Thunder Wave with Grimmsnarl, which is kind of annoying, but we get the Heavy Slam into Grimmsnarl, and Blaziken is going to get really fast over time, and if it managed to take out Dondozo with like 2 crits or something, then Blaziken probably could win this, because it would make itself faster than Tatsugiri after a while, and probably be able to just outgo close combat Tatsugiri, but they decided not to gamble on the last crit, which is good for us at least. Here we have a pretty good spread of mons here, as they have things like the Blood Moon Ursaluna and the Farigiraf for setting up Trick Room mode, but they also probably have Final Gambit Monkey, which really threatens us just leading Dondozo. And our Caledon and Sonora Rillaboom, I feel like, need no introduction for how strong those Pokemon are. And they lead Farigiraf Ursaluna, which I'm pretty okay with because I decided to lead Talonflame and Shiftry, and they actually helping hand into Ursaluna, which I thought they were going to try and protect and go for Trick Room, so I decided to take out Farigiraf. But Ursaluna immediately goes for the Throat Spray, which is going to bring both of our mons super low. And I figure Annihilape was going to go for, like, close combat things, but they actually immediately swap our Caledon, perhaps hoping to catch something that our Caledon would resist so that our Caledon could start getting defense boost. But we just protect Shiftry here and then get up the Tailwind so that Shiftry can get the attack boost for next turn. And they're just going to Hyper Voice down Talonflame as we can bring in Dondozo. I have my fingers crossed here that Ursaluna is not Vacuum Wave, and it is not. So we just get to Leaf Blade into it. And I don't think that crit would have mattered because of our attack boost, but it was a 1 in 8 chance to happen. But it does help, but I don't think it's super mattered there. So now we get to bring in Dondozo mode, and we can Terra Grass, and in Tailwind we are faster than Annihilape, even if it is Choice Scarfed, as they land the Electro Shot with our Caledon, but now our Caledon is the last Pokemon on the field, and with our Terra Grass on Dondozo, it's not going to be easy for our Caledon to deal with it, because we're unaware to the special attack boost from Electro Shot. Lastly, we have a battle against a pretty funky team. I mean, all of these Pokemon, except for like maybe Whimsicott and Basque Legion, are kind of strange choices. So I'm interested to see what the opponent is going to do. And they lead Arcanine and Noivern, and I have Poltegeist and Dondozo. So we're leading a bit of a mix 2-2-2 here, as they immediately Terra Electric their Arcanine, and I just protect Dozo to see what they're going to do. Tailwind gets set up, and they go for Wild Charge into Dozo as we get up Light Screen, and I really should have burned, actually, burning the Arcanine on that first turn makes no sense because it's a fire type on that first turn, but we're gonna have to take the Wild Charge here with Shiftry and the Air Slash, which means that Shiftry's gonna get KO'd, but we at least get the burn on Arcanine, which is helpful, but now we're gonna kind of struggle to get away from this Noivern and Arcanine, but we get to disable Dragon Pulse, which is nice, and we get to disable Wild Charge. And Poltegeist takes both hits, so we get to get a little bit of foul play damage into Noivern, but it's not a lot, as the opponent swaps out into Basque Legion, making me think that they are Choice Band Arcanine, so we did just brick the Arcanine pretty good. Air Slash misses Tatsugiri, and we get the Stomping Tantrum into Basque Legion to do about half of its health, as they bring back in Arcanine, and they get the Air Slash from Noivern, but we don't get flinched, so we get to knock out Arcanine this turn, which was one of their bigger damage pieces, even though it's burned, and they bring in Crocodile, who has the Intimidate, and they Air Slash Noivern, but unfortunately they flinch us, so they knock off our Clear Amulet, which means that they can just cycle back out Crocodile. And they do cycle back out Crocodile as Noivern goes for another Air Slash, and they flinch us again on Dondozo, which allows them to get up another Tailwind, and Lash Respects is doing some pretty decent damage now that we have killed one of their Pokemon, and Dragon Pulse and Lash Respects is going to take down Tatsugiri, and they crit us, which is a little bit of insult to injury, as Air Slash and Lash Respects is going to wrap up the game. So, unfortunately, I feel like we had a pretty good start there, where we were playing it pretty safe with the team. However, the Noivern was just faster than us and got to Air Slash down Dondozo. However, I feel like my play could have been a little bit better, as I did, but instead of using my Stomping Tantrum turns to try and hit Arcanine, since I had burned the Arcanine, I probably should have gotten rid of the most likely Pokemon that could contribute RNG, and that's Noivern with the Tailwind and Air Slash, so I wish I had focused down the Noivern a little bit more while I had those turns to hit it with Dondozo. But yeah, that was 2-2-2... Wait, I messed it up. But yeah, that was 2-2 tea time. I think maybe this team works in open team sheet. It would be kind of hard to say. I think you could argue that it does, but you just have to be very careful. As you can see, what opponents are holding berries to force them to eat those berries, but then your opponent can also see your entire strategy, which can kind of take the wind out of your sails. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, maybe consider leaving a like on the video, and even consider subscribing, because both of those things would help me out an absolute ton. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you.